Hey folks, Dan from D&N Custom Creations. I'm going to try and do another video here. The last video I did, I talked about a large sign that we had made for a customer, and I'll put here a picture of what that looked like when I sent it off. Now, the intent was originally, I did the metal part on there, and then that was going to go to the people that actually were the ones that contracted that sign with the original customer. They were going to cut out with a CNC router some PVC letters that went on top of that sign. They were a little smaller, but obviously a lot thicker. Well, the customer was shown a sign that I did, and here I'll show you a picture of what that looked like. And she decided that she wanted the sign that we did to be the same look. And so we had to stop. And they threw it back into my corner, and I have now cut out some 3/16 letters, and they will be basically patinaed with a rust color, a copper sulfate, some other chemicals that I use to create that rusty look. And then I'll give them back to the folks, and they will attach it to that sign, finish painting the rest of it, and get it installed. So what I want to do in the video today to show what I've had to do to try and come up with these letters, because one of the things that they've asked for is on the back of each letter they wanted a threaded rod, and for the small letters they wanted a small one, like 1/8 of an inch, that was stuck out 1.5 inches, and they were going to use that to attach it to the main sign. On the large letters it was 3/16. Well, they wanted those welded to the back of the letters. And, you know, I'm sure there's a million welders out there that are capable of doing that. Some good certified guys that have been doing this all their life. And that'd be no problem for them. For me, it's a problem. And so I actually attempted to try and weld those small pieces of threaded rod to the back of that 3/16 steel. And about the time that I would get the puddle going on that 3/16, well, I'd already melted the bottom of this little stud off. So I had to find another old man solution to do this, and so that's what I'm going to spend a little time showing you. First, let me show you what the letters look like, and we'll go from there. Okay, here's the large letters. I put a ruler next to them so you can kind of get the idea. They're about 17 inches high, and obviously the size of the letter and the width is dependent on the size of the letter. But here are the large letters that have been cut out, and it spells LOFTS, or lofts. These would go in apartment complex, lofts apartment complex. And so there's the large letters. The small letters, they're, I don't know, what would I say, about 3 inches tall? Yeah, maybe not quite 4 inches tall. And these are the small letters. Now, here are the small studs, threaded rod that they wanted to put on the back side of them. And obviously they need to be 90 degrees. And you can see some of the letters have 4 or 5 of these that need to be mounted. All right, so the customer that I'm working with, the people that actually are the contractors to do the signs, called Acme Industrial, they do a great job. They do some really cool stuff. So they gave me templates. So every letter came with a template for not only the size, but then the holes where they wanted these rods at. And so that was a real help. And so I have managed to finish the C. There's the back side that's got some jam nuts on them, but they're not tightened down. And I've got a D. And what I essentially am doing, they have to stick out 1.5 inches, and they need to be obviously 90 degrees or perpendicular to the surface of the back side of the letter. So I'll show you what I'm down to. The C and the D, I tried, just trying to do it a little bit by hand without anything to try and keep the posts straight. But what I wound up doing is drilling holes where the studs go, countersinking those holes. I'll show you a little later what that looks like. And then I'm going to make a little metal standoffs that will hold them at 90 degrees. They'll stick through the front side. I'll plug weld them and then grind them down so you won't be able to see where that weld was. So the first thing I want to do is we'll go back to the lathe and I'll show you what I'm making for the standoffs. Okay, so here's what I'm hoping will work. If it doesn't, you'll get to see some failure in real time. But I have cut off some small pieces of metal. I don't know what that is, maybe 5/8 of round bar. And I have cut them down to 1.5 inches, if you can see that. Let's see if I can get over here. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to drill through them through the center, and I'll go halfway with 1/8 of an inch, and I'll go halfway from the other side with 3/16 of an inch. And what I'm planning is when these will be, I got 4 of them, and when they're sitting, I'm not sure if you can see that. Let me see if I can blow that up a little bit more. Well, so when they're sitting on the welding table, they'll act as my standoffs, and they'll keep then, not only will they keep it at the 1.5 inches that the requirement or that they requested, but they'll also support it so that the bar or the threaded rod is vertical. And then also take those templates and put them on the bottom to hold the bottom of the threaded rod so they're perfectly in line according to the template. So that's what I'm going to attempt to do. So what I'm going to do now is go through just a little bit of machining where I'm just going to simply drill a hole through. I'll drill all the way through with the 1/8 inch, and then I'll go halfway with the 3/16 of an inch. All right. Well, if you're listening closely, you'll know why I've changed plans. I was going to drill all the way through with the drill that would allow me to put the 1/8 inch threaded rod through, and then I'll go halfway with the 3/16 threaded rod. Well, that threaded rod's got to go all the way through. So obviously, if I'm going to put a 3/16 rod all the way through, I've got to drill all the way through with a 3/16. So what I've decided to do is do 2 of them in the 1/8 and 2 of them in 3/16. And then as I'm welding them in, I'll just make sure I've got the appropriate one in the area that I'm welding. So let's go ahead with this first one. The first one we'll do, I guess we'll do for the thread rod is actually 832, and the large one is 1024. So here we go. I'm running this right now at 1200 RPMs, which is the fastest that I can go on my machine in the belt conditions where the belts are, the pulleys where the belts are. If you do the math and look at look in the tables and see what the speed could be, well, for something that small, I could, run it for almost 4,000 RPM for high-speed steel. But can't do that, so we'll take what we can. not breaking the chip on the end very well. So let me slow it down a little bit. All right, try me another drill. I will clean the ends up on the bench. All right, I've done two at the 1/8 inch. Here's an 1/8 of an inch. You see a nice smooth fit. Now the drill I'm actually using is a number 20 drill because for a 832 threaded rod, the major diameter is like 0.165 or something like that. I can't recall now. So the number 20 drill is a 0.161, and your drill is going to always be a little oversized, at least on what I do at my level of precision. So it seems to work pretty good. I'm going to move now up to the larger for the 3/16, and I might have to hunt a drill up for that one as well. So let me put you on hold. Okay, let me quickly show you my attempt to try and make sure that the little threaded studs that go on the back of these letters are straight and line up with where they're going to go into the sign. So as I mentioned before, the folks, the prime contractor, I'm a sub to them, Acme Industrial, doing some really cool stuff. You ought to check out their website. But they've done templates. So now with these studs, I simply just put these studs in the holes in these templates, and so we know that that end is going to line up. Then I'm taking these small round bar that I have drilled holes in and putting them on top of the studs. What that does basically ensures that my standoff remains the same, and the standoff winds up being the thickness of these. Now, I didn't realize it, but to compensate obviously for this, I had to actually turn these. Remember, they were originally 1.5 inches. I turned them down 1/8 of an inch to compensate. So then when I lay the letter on top of that, and by the way, I've gone in the letters, and after I drilled, I countersunk so that when I weld them up and plug weld that, it gives it a little bit more area to accept the weld. So then I just put these on top, and there the stud sticks up slightly through the hole, and I'll basically, when I weld, I'll use a little bit of filler metal, but the majority of the weld is just primarily going to be melting the little threaded rod that sticks up. and plugging that hole. And then I'll come back with my grinder, actually a flap wheel, and I'll just make those flush again. All right. I don't have a filter for the welder, so if I were to weld on camera, it's just going to wipe out the image. So I'll just have to show it to you after I'm done welding. Okay. All right, here's a real quick look at the after doing that plug weld, and I will now just come back with a flap wheel and smooth those back off. You can see the studs or the little threaded rod are nice and straight, so I think this is going to work real well. Thanks. So here are the letters after I've welded all of the little threaded rod on the end, on the bottoms of each one of those, and then ground down the weld marks. So still hot. There they are. But, the big ones have the larger threaded rod, 3/16, and the small ones, actually number 10. And then the small ones are the 832s. Anyway, the next thing is now to do the rusting and patina and get them to look like what they're hoping them to look like. All right, talk to you later. All right, here's what they look like after they've been patinaed and then flushed and neutralized with water. This is a muriatic acid, hydrogen peroxide, copper sulfate, and some other things. And it's a pretty nasty environment, so I don't typically try and record with my phone. I don't want my phone around that stuff. If you watch a guy on YouTube, Artfully Rogue is the name of the guy. He's an artist guy. I think he's out in California. He's the one I learned how to do this from, and he does some really neat things, and he'll show you how to do it. I'll get these now ready to ship back to the Acme Industrial folks, and they're going to put a clear coat on it before they mount it to the sign. All right, here's now the items after they've been clear coated with it's a satin clear coat. I'm not sure what the actual paint that they use, the Acme folks, but they do a really good job. And then now these have been mounted to the sign. The base of that sign they're going to leave as a silver. They've coated that to make it weather resistant. And these are now the patinaed items that are mounted to that sign on those standoffs. Gives it a little bit of a 3D effect. It's my understanding that this sign is going to go up, I think, the end of this week. So I'm looking forward to it. And maybe I'll give it a chance. I'll send a picture out on my next video. I think that's going to do it. Appreciate you taking the time, and we'll be with you again. This is D&N Custom Creations. Thanks again.